I was born and raised in St. Petersburg, Russia. While I was growing up, I believed that Russia was the best country in the world. The biggest, the strongest, the fairest, and the freest. When I came to the United States, I realized that things looked somewhat smaller from a distance. I also realized that once again I found myself in the best country in the world. I decided to cross the ocean again. For the past 3 summers, I went to Russia, France, Greece, Egypt, and Italy. I wanted to find Americans who, like me, came to live in other countries and ask them how they see America from the distance.
America is an ideal. It's genius. It is the great experiment, and it's right or wrong. It's everybody together.
We're so in the American bubble. You know, we are so isolated and so concerned about us and what we're doing that we don't think about what's going on in the world.
I think America is freedom. Freedom to speak your thought, even though I disagree vehemently with Bush, I am free to speak my mind.
America is full of propaganda. They say freedom of the press. There is no freedom of the press because otherwise more people would say what they think.
I do believe that America is the best place to live in the world. The little man has the best chance to make it in America.
Every young generation is hopeful and optimistic and thinks anything can happen. America's the only place that says, yeah, it's gonna happen. Come on, bring your drink. Yeah, we'll take you.
Americans are often the result of a series of moves. They end up somewhere. They don't know why they're here. They grew up in some town because their parents came there and their grandparents came from some faraway country that they've never seen. And then, so what is American culture? Salad bowl, melting pot.
I don't know if the pot is melted. You know, I think it's you put everybody together and you say, okay, this corner is yours, that corner is yours, this big part is mine. I don't think we've melted as of yet.
I wonder if you can be a patriot at a distance. Patriotism seems to run in the family. We called Russia Mother Russia. In the Soviet Union, patriotism was a duty recorded in the Constitution. When my classmate left for America, I was forbidden to mention her name because she was a traitor. My father said she will regret it, but it will be too late. We will never take her back. I never heard Americans say Mother America or even Motherland. Perhaps it's because for many it's not a place of birth. The family relation that American people coined for their homeland is an uncle, Uncle Sam. Uncles can be very involved, but they don't have to be. The Americans whom I interviewed are not strictly speaking expatriates. They visit America often and regularly renew their American passports. So what is patriotism in a country where freedom of movement is a natural right?
What is patriotism?
Love of country.
Love of country.
Love for your country.
Love is one country.
We'll get the dictionary.
Get the dictionary, right?
Get the dictionary.
Of one's father.
Yeah,
from
you see father.
fatherland. One who loves his country and zealously supports its authority and interest. Do you zealously support the authority and interest
No,
of
I
America?
do not. I do
You're not a patriot, Paul.
No, that's it. I'm not a patriot. I'm not zealous.
I'm not zealous either.
I think Bush's patriotism is love of Bush, love of what they're trying to do, and they're just using it. I consider myself a patriot.
Part of patriotism is allowing a government to send your child to war. My son, who served in the first Gulf War and actually was wounded a little bit, not badly, but he lost some pretty good friends right beside him in that little war.
You need to leave home in order to realize that it's home. When I was asked about Cold War and cold weather, I had to ask myself, Am I Russian? Do I miss Russia? I miss Russian food, of course. Ice cold herring on a piece of rye bread with a slice of crispy onion. I missed hitchhiking with strangers. You see, there were no scary movies in Russia, so we didn't know how incredibly dangerous it was. I miss taking life not so seriously, like a Russian roulette perhaps. Whatever happens, happens, and it's always better than a bullet. It's hard for me to understand the retirement plan or a 30-year loan. When I ask for my retirement plan to be given to me now simply because I don't think I'll live long enough to enjoy it, they say, "Oh, can you be any more Russian?" Only in America did I fully realize that I'm Russian. We understand better who we are when we live side by side with the neighbors who are unlike us.
I miss big parties. Americans are used to having big parties where people don't know one another and they just come and they mingle and you have a fantastic time and meet all kinds of different people. That's not really the way people have parties here.
You don't have baseball. It's a very American game and it's very slow. You can go away and buy a hot dog and come back, nothing will have changed.
I miss the easy, very fast things. Buying a car, a Skoda, which is Czechoslovakian, took me like a week. In the States, I could call up and buy a Jeep Cherokee in 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
One of the things I really miss in America is consideration for your fellow man. The Russians feel that it's just so false in the States, so they smile. There's nothing behind that smile. I don't think that's true. I think there really is something behind that smile. In this sense, I've got to be a bit of a missionary. I've got to do unto others as I would have them do unto me. And I think, especially in the working environment, I think it's worked quite a bit.
The appreciation of music, old soul, funk, whatever, jazz. You know, here in Europe, it's like all pop. You know, things going on.
Things like bologna. You can't get bologna here. You know, that's maybe not one of the most prized foods, but when you can't have one, it makes it that much better.
I came to the United States in 1991. As I was learning new English words, I was also learning about new things they described, like asparagus, air conditioner, garbage disposer, or privacy, for which there is no word in the Russian language. So now when I go back to Russia, I know what to say if somebody comes to arrest me in the middle of the night. I'll say, "Excuse me, you are violating my privacy." I remember how I tried to charm a traffic cop so he wouldn't write me a speeding ticket. I tried to explain that my mysterious Russian soul got simply carried away on the American superhighway. He liked my story, and I think he liked me too, but he still wrote me a ticket. I don't think I would have ever discovered these things unless I left Russia. Privacy, instantly disappearing garbage, and stern traffic cops.
This country can be really interesting. So it is. You get here and the cop stops you and you pay him $2 for running a red light. You don't have to pay off the whole syndicate, you know, the cops, the secretaries, the judge, the plaintiff. You just need to pay the one cop that stopped you.
One thing I would like to say that I admire a lot about France is that I belong to an association called La Maison des Artistes, which enables me to have health insurance for a very reasonable rate. I think that's a very embarrassing and horrible thing in America, that it's the richest country in the world and there are 40 million people without health insurance.
Attitude towards vacation. We just don't really think in terms of vacation. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, if you can. Here in Russia, in the summertime, it's more important to be out at that dacha, raising your little cucumbers, your tomatoes and potatoes, and that's what life is all about. And I appreciate that now, actually. I've come to learn there is that important balance in life. I've become Russified in that sense.
People's attitudes about nudity, about sex, it's a lot more low-key than it is in the United States. We seem to be very uptight about it. A bare breast is really scandalous. That is just beyond ironic to me. It's the most natural thing, you know, on earth. And, you know, yet all these Terminator films and all of these violent films.
Maman, papa, il est pas dans la forêt.
Oh, I think Papa went behind with Tom, or maybe they went in the house. Why don't you look in the house, okay?
I walk the street. It could be the dark of night. I could be dressed anywhere, and people aren't afraid of me. That was like sort of a thing too, you know. Italians and blacks, Africans have had a long history. So, you know, some of the emperors of Rome were black. Just to let you know.
You know, here, you know, I walk down the street and the vegetable guy says, "Hello, do you want to deliver your lettuce today?" So you feel a part of the community. It is something that I love about this country. It's something that I think we've lost in America. We've lost that sense of community. I think people go about their business day to day. They walk out their house in the morning, they get in their car. They get in their car, they go to the parking garage. The parking garage to the 20th floor. The 20th floor back to their car and back home. You know? And then when they go shopping, they go to the Super Walmart or Super Kmart or Home Depot, and that's where they get their things.
What's nice here is they do have a certain degree of respect for old people. You know, especially some of these guys, these old kritikos guys with the little pantaloons, the boots, and he's got his little mustachio and the puffy blouse. He's come from the mountains. He's got 3 teeth in his head, and he's coming with his walking stick. And they're all like, "Hey, come here, sit down, tell us a story." And even if he just sits there and says nothing, they like him, they respect him. He's the epitome of their culture. In America, families are separated. You know, you have your kids, you grow up, you send them to school, strangers look after them. They don't do that here. You get, the grandma, she's gonna look after them. You got all the generations doing the job, sticking with the family. That's why they're so close. They see so much of each other. We don't like old people. We hide them away in nursing homes. Well, you know, it's a really young country. It's a wisdom thing. We don't understand that wisdom thing. You know, it's like, talk to those guys who were in World War II and ask them, should we be going to Iraq? No, of course not. Instead, we ask like some child who has no clue and doesn't know from death, pain, or suffering.
When I came to America, my son Gleb was 7 months old. He went to an American daycare and American school. I saw how he was becoming an American. When Gleb played baseball in his elementary school, parents always burst into cheer where their child was holding a bat. When a child swings the bat and hits the ball, parents shout, "Good hit!" When the child swings the bat and misses the ball, they say, "Good try." When the child does not swing the bat at all, they scream, "Good eye!" Whatever you do, you always do good. When you don't just visit, but actually live in another country, you begin to see the world in the light of its language. When you use this language to formulate your basic needs, you question what those needs are.
I've been here for 8 years in Russia. I'm a chef cuisine for a restaurant called Zhiguli. This is a Russian frying pan. Try to make it flat. I said, I want to live with Russian people. I want to see how they cook, where they buy food, how they live. Where do they buy food? There's no supermarkets here. So tomatoes, they look like they were grown in Chernobyl. They're all deformed and not the right color. The carrots were like, I don't know, something out of this world. They were like grown in Mars or something. I live in a Russian apartment. I drive a Russian car. I don't walk the dog, but she runs alongside the car. So why walk the dog when the dog can walk herself? You know, I just get in the car and she gets all her exercise and goes where she has to go. Plus everybody gets out of the way. Here I make like Russian salary, a little bit better than a Russian person. Russians get by. It's also a big lesson. Russians get by on what they make. All in all, it's interesting. Every day is another adventure.
my first taxi ride from the airport to the hotel, I thought, oh my, what have I done? But it didn't take long to find out that the Egyptian people are some of the most friendly people in the world. You can almost be smothered. They're so helpful and so friendly and so nice.
In Egypt here, you don't cross the streets like any other country. You don't look at the cars. Cars are a piece of metal. You look to the people in the eyes and ask them if you can actually cross or not.
It was extremely impulsive when I bought this house. Just came to town and I looked at it and I bought it. And everything was peeling and faded and sagging and falling apart. It had a certain kind of, what I call dismal charm. People have a sense of aesthetics in daily life. Here in this small town of 16,000 people, there are at least 16 florists.
When we moved into the house we have now, at first our neighbors did not say hello. There would be no eye contact because we're sort of on probation. When we began putting flowers out on the facade, because everyone in the street does that, from that moment on we were part of the community.
When I was visiting France, Tom invited me to an American festival, La Fête d'Amérique, that was taking place in a small Burgundy town. Tom was the only American at the American festival. It was not like St. Patrick's or Bastille Day in New York, when immigrants celebrate their national heritage. The French were celebrating America, not as a foreign culture, but as their very own, homegrown American dream. After living in the United States for 15 years, I see that American dream looks a lot similar to the Soviet dream from the distance. The American dream is to start with nothing and achieve everything, by hard work or by a stroke of luck. It sounds just like a revolutionary song we all learned in Soviet schools. Who was nothing will become everything. The difference is that in Soviet Russia, you do it for your party or your people, for the future generations or all of the humanity. But in America, you do it for yourself, for your personal happiness. Like many other things American, happiness trickles down to the rest of the world at least 3 times a day. There are more and more places in the world where you can grab a happy meal for lunch, a happy hour for dinner, and a happy ending in your evening entertainment for dessert. When I traveled, I asked random people in the streets what they think of their American neighbor. Even though many have never traveled the distance, they always had an opinion ready. Opinion about America that is all around them.
Mi è piaciuta, gli americani mi stanno simpatici, sono stati accoglienti.
Sì, si sente su tutto, come si vestono i giovani, come la pensano, come parlano.
Fino al 1945 bene, dopo un po' buio, molto buio.
È proprio non adattarsi, ma fare adattare.
Viva l'America! E viva l'America! Se non c'era l'America noi non saremmo un popolo in pace.
يعني أمريكا كانت كويسة اتغيرت بعد اللي حصل فيها بعد الضرب.
وأمريكا إن كانت هي النهاردة الإنسان الأول أو الدولة الأولى في العالم. إن كانت أمريكا هي الرجل الأول في العالم فقد كانت قبلها دول وزحف.
دولة عظمى المفروض هي تحافظ على حقوق الناس وتوصل لكل واحد ضعيف حق، إنما هي بتيجي على الضعيف مش بتيجي على القوي.
I loved the service and the politeness in the States. Everybody so polite, like good morning sir, good morning madam, how are you? What can I do for you? Have a nice morning this morning. It's lovely. But of course they don't talk politics.
the American government didn't act as if we had value. They don't listen to us. They don't listen to Europeans, Africans, Asians. We're only here to spend money and buy their stuff.
Она очень свободная страна, очень хорошая. Там все, что хочешь, все бесплатно.
Да?
Если там бомж, ну, там такого нету понятия бомж. Он едет на машине.
Само отношение американцев ко всем остальным нациям, где Америка, peace, а на самом деле они как бы не совсем такие люди, за которых себя выдают.
Но они создали очень многое, машины, оружие, все. Поэтому они умные.
Америка, короче, это маленький ребенок, короче, у него маленькая история, да, там, 300 лет, да?
Как-то быстро становится взрослым и все-таки диктует всем свои условия.
We've been together for 5 years. It's just fun, you know. Americans like to play, you know, they're like little kids. Instead, the Italians, like at 30 years old, you're already old. Too many responsibilities, I don't know what it is, but they don't do it for me.
America is going through like a teenage stage. Bad, good, good, bad. Don't know where we're going, but we're going there.
My son Gleb is now a teenager. In his English class, they had to write an essay about Catcher in the Rye, how modern teenagers relate to Holden Caulfield. Gleb wrote that modern teenagers feel just as lonely and unappreciated because the whole world is against them. I must have felt the same way when I was a teenager. I was going to a Soviet school. Since it was disapproved by the government, politics was hip. We talked about it in the kitchen, sipping strong tea and listening to the forbidden radio station, Voice of America. I thought of America as a giant chorus of people constantly talking, questioning, debating, formulating their country's policies. But when I arrived, I learned very quickly that in America it was a bad taste to talk about religion or politics. I guess I can understand why you can't really argue about religion. You kind of have to die to prove your point. But why not argue about politics? Isn't that where politics is born? Kitchens, dining rooms, even bedrooms.
French talk about food and politics, and they do it non-stop. We had a party and there were about 15 people, all French. They didn't want one last drink. They wanted one last talk.
Conversation.
They really did. They sat down and they said, discutons. Let's talk.
Greece is a very little country, but everybody's very vocal here. They all have an opinion, a very strong one. I think a lot of Americans, unfortunately, they get wounded when somebody gives them a different opinion. They can't stand it. To hear all the negativism, they get very upset. They think that people are just jealous and they're envious and they're angry at us, and they don't understand that we are perceived very differently outside of the U.S.
I think America gets a very unfair rap a lot of the time. I think America makes a lot of very bad mistakes politically. In the eyes of the world, they don't realize sometimes how it's perceived. And that's a shame to me, because I think the Americans generally believe that they're doing the right things.
I was talking with these two French girls, and we were having a great conversation, and they didn't know where I was from. They couldn't figure out my accent. They didn't know I was American. They didn't quite know what to think of me. And then the infamous question came up, where are you from? And to be honest, anytime I'm asked that question, I get very nervous. I get extremely nervous. Because I don't know what to say. When I say I'm American, you get treated differently. You know, for example, with these French girls I was just telling you about, that ended the conversation, that ended our relationship for the trip. They really didn't want to have anything to do with me the rest of the trip.
When I came back to what still was the Soviet Union, I had to have my passport picture taken. By my newly acquired American habit, I smiled. The photographer took a step back. "What's so funny about a Soviet document?" he said. "What are you so happy about? Did you open the newspaper today?" In Russia, it was not a good idea to be happy. But in America, happiness is legal. Your right to pursue it is a self-evident truth, carved in stone and guaranteed by several state constitutions. As long as you're not an illegal alien, you are entitled to this inalienable right. Whether you see them on television or in the streets, Americans seem happy and friendly, full of smiles and good wishes. But now and then you stumble upon some strangely unhappy individuals, collecting signatures, giving out flyers, carrying angry posters. These are political activists. They seem disheveled, lonely, and very upset. However, since they only appear in strictly designated areas and for very short periods of time, it's not hard to tune them out. I wonder if it's possible to pursue personal happiness without causing global unhappiness, to look after your American dream and still keep an eye on the bigger picture.
Rome's opened my eyes to a lot of different things, and I became more of an American because, when I go back home, I am a lot more open to America than I was.
Before I left America, I pretty much thought America is where everything is that's important to me. And I had to live outside the United States for a while before I began to realize that not everything is there.
When I called Bruce and Jeremiah in Egypt and asked if I could interview them, they said they were going scuba diving in the Red Sea that weekend. So I went along. As I went for my first dive, I finally understood why we had to wear glasses underwater. Before, I thought that goggles and diving masks use special lens. But that's not true. It's just regular glass. In fact, it could be even plastic. The trick is the distance between your eyes and the water. Our eyes need distance to focus the light in order to see clearly.
My name is Douglas Puller. I'm from New York City. I've been in Russia now for 8.5 years.
My name is Jay Close. I was born in New York City, Manhattan, 88th and West End Avenue. I've been here for 8 years in Russia.
My name is Elisa Hickson. I came here from California, although I'm actually originally from the East Coast. I started working in tourism, and that's what I've been doing for the last 9 years.
My name is Walter Berry, and I now live in Autun, in Saône-et-Loire, in Burgundy, since 1975.
My name is Anna Kirkpatrick, and I came to France just almost exactly 15 years ago. I was born in Washington, D.C. and grew up in Virginia.
Well, my name is Tom, and I'm from upstate New York in the Mohawk Valley.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's an interesting place to live, even though they get on your nerves, they can be very annoying, but they also can be very fine people, and they're so interesting.
I'm Melissa Idley-Otis from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
My name is Alice Kentrianakis. I originate from Long Island in New York.
Hey, hi, my name's Job. I'm from Philly. I always like history, Impero Romano, type deal. It's so different from West Philly, which I don't know if anyone's ever been to West Philly, but this ain't it.
My name is Paul Ansinas. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I've been living here in Rome for the last 5 years.
I am Sue Stokalifa, American, born in Nashville, Tennessee. Been in Egypt, I think, longer than the pyramids.
My name is Jeremiah Peak. I grew up just east of San Francisco in a place called Lake Tahoe.
My name is Bruce Conrad. I'm originally from Florida, and I've been living in Egypt for a little over 8 years, and I've loved living here.